Good morning and welcome back to Starting Lineup. Keefer, the legend, Tony Curry back at you at 10:30, 11 o'clock every Saturday morning right here on ABC 3340. We got a Kip Perspective we're going to be doing on the show today.
Going to talk about Bill Belichick.
Oh, nice. We got that up here. Of course, we'll be heading to Legends Cave coming up here in a few minutes. And also, of course,
where Bill Belichick's not allowed.
And also, Case Keefer giving us some hot picks and some futures as well. We get the PGA kicking up and get some great stuff going on the Daytona 500.
Yeah, he wears golf out. So
yes, he does. He's going to be doing some fantastic. And we have a matchup for Super Bowl 60.
We do.
Between the Seahawks and, of course, the Pats. Right at the top, Kipper, who you like in that game?
I mean, the Seahawks are better, but the Patriots have had a magic season. But I get the feeling with those guys, fellas, that this is a young team that's just kind of had this glorious season. And I know, you know my big thing, Tony. It's not how you played, it's who you played. They had a pretty easy schedule during the year, and it really worked out perfectly for them. Drake May has been fantastic, but I just don't think they're quite ready to make the step to world champions.
Yeah, only the fifth quarterback to actually make it to a Super Bowl in his second season. And you mentioned the easy schedule. The third easiest schedule since 1978. 438 was the percentage that,
now that's crazy.
That the Pats won. And I will say this, as much as Sam Darnold, he's won 28 ball games in the last 2 years during the regular season. He's thrown 9 picks and only 9 touchdowns in the second half of the season, and he is responsible for 20 of the 28 turnovers the Seahawks have had. Only one team had more, and that would be the Minnesota Vikings. What's your thoughts?
Well, I like Seattle. You know, I think once they got rid of the Alabama offensive coordinator, everything went well for them. They became one of the best rushing teams in the NFL. And I just don't see. I think New England is kind of a fluke. I think it's a down year for the AFC with Kansas City not living up to their potential and other teams. It's kind of a fluke. I like Seattle.
I owe you a 50. You want to give me the 4.5 and call it a night?
Hey, let's do it. Double or nothing.
Plus 4.5. I owe you 50.
Action right before your eyes, Birmingham.
We're going to heat up some Venmo later on after the show for sure. Big time. We're going to get it on here. Also, they met in Washington, D.C. down the coast, and it appears that the Big Ten and the SEC, despite there's only 2, can't seem to agree. And I know you've got a lot to say about Greg Sankey and Petiti. It looks like we're going to stay at 12 teams. We were hoping 14 or 16. Of course, the Big Ten, they want to go to 24, but it's going to stay 12 right now. Then we'll talk some hoops.
Tony, there's trouble in paradise. Mm-hmm. Tony and Sankey the Yankee have had a falling out over this playoff structure. The Big Ten tried to jam it up to 24, which is kind of a giant leap.
Crazy.
The 16 would have made sense. My problem with keeping it at 12 is not keeping it at 12. It's, once again, you need to understand, it's not the selection committee that's the problem, it's the managing committee. That's the big bosses, that's the commissioners, that's the AD at Notre Dame, that's who makes all the decisions. The selection committee is a bunch of hired plugs that only do what the managing committee says. And the problem, once again, this year is they've made some adjustments. But with only 12 teams, all 4 conference champions are going to get in now.
Yep.
Remember, Duke didn't get in because they were not ranked as high as James Madison, which was a disaster because James Madison had no business being in the playoffs. Yeah. But the other thing I've got a problem with, the Notre Dame accommodation, if they're in the top 12, they're automatic. No matter if they've played nobody, if you look at their schedule this year, it's really comically bad.
It is really
so
bad.
Notre Dame would be in under this system and the ACC champion. If this was the schedule last year, if this was the plan, guess which team would not have gotten into the playoffs? The Miami Hurricanes, who went to the finals and pushed the greatest team of all time right to the brink in the championship game. Miami would have been out in this year's format.
As a 10 seed, that's unbelievable. They really would have. And, the fact that Duke, with all their losses, would have been playing in the championship. The other thing I think they need to change up a little bit is let's do some home games, man. Let's get a 16, do some home games. By teams, 1 and 7. I thought you brought up a great point on Keefer and Curry and Need to Know on a show that we do on Tony Curry Radio and also here on ABC 3340. It's good to give a bye week when you're talking about the National Football League. A bye week. But a bye month, that doesn't always work for people. Bye teams 1 and 7 so far in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think you make a great point. I think they need to bring this playoff to a week-by-week basis and take the byes out of it. The teams with the buys have been 1-7 so far in 2 years. It's not helping the better teams. They need to break it down and make it more simple. But it appears that all they care about is money. They don't really care about the betterment of the game.
Fresh hot news. Had a podcast with Mark Ingram, the UAB athletic director. He's always pulling back the curtain on what's going on. Says that March Madness will expand next year. Not this year, but it will expand next year. He's asking it for it to double.
Wow.
It's only going to add one more game. The big issue is that's going to run it right over top of the Masters. And they do not want to be playing the Final Four in the Elite Eight weekend when the Masters start on that Thursday. So the NIT does it, the CBI does it, everyone else plays games during the Masters. For some reason, college hoops is like, no, we want the whole show. We don't even want people watching golf during this thing. So if they do that, they're going to have to back it up. But it's one extra game. What's your thoughts?
I don't know. Doubling it, that's an awful big step, but what the hell? Everybody come on in.
Let everybody in. It is only one more game.
Yeah, maybe we'll even have an upset in the first round. I don't know. But, one thing's for sure. You don't mess with the fellas in Augusta.
No.
It's a memory like no other.
No, there's no doubt. What's your thoughts there, Ledge?
You know, you might as well just eliminate the regular season and start the tournament when the season starts. I mean, where are we at now? What's going to be like 128? I mean, are we going to have is every team in the SEC basically going to make the
Well, we had
tournament?
14 out of 16 last
I mean, you
year.
don't have that many conferences to say, well, you know, UAB didn't make it, so yeah, let's expand it.
And
but that's a lot of teams when you're talking about 68 more teams. I mean, that might cover everybody in the SEC.
Well,
when you're
see,
done.
and that's what's going to be. You look at, like, say, the Big East. You're going to have teams that are 6-10 or 6-12, depending on whether they're playing 18. You're going to have teams like that in the Big East who are top 25 teams going to be getting in because they're 19-10.
Yep.
And then the UABs of the world, who may have a great season at 24-5, they're not going to get in because of their schedule, because of it. So again, it's going to be who's deserving or who's supposed to be in. And that's why a lot of the schools, like a St. John's, when they're getting an NIT vote, they're like, I'm out. We don't want to play the NIT. They're done for the season. They had a lousy year. They didn't make the NCAA tournament. We don't want to play basketball anymore. But for teams like UAB, hey, we'll take that NIT vote, and we'll hang a banner if we win a championship while we do it. So that's something to think about. A lot to get into. The Legend Cave. I'm interested to see if you're going to be talking about Bediako. We'll see if it's going to be coming up here in the cave, as well as Case Keefer getting after with some more picks right here on ABC 3340. This.
The Birmingham Racecourse Casino turns dreams into reality. Like Roger M., who just won over $51,000. And Rebecca, celebrating a life-changing jackpot of $160,000. You could be the next to dance the Icky Shuffle with a big win.
Woo! I'm a winner! I'm a winner! Woo! I'm a winner! I'm a winner! Woo! And you can be a winner too!
Don't miss your chance to be our next big winner at the Birmingham Racecourse Casino.
Welcome, everybody. It's Kipperspective time, and we're going to talk about Bill Belichick today, filling in for the First Lady of the SEC. Usually Coach's Corner occupies this part of the program. But in the offseason, we'll have Terry on periodically. In the meantime, I'll try to fill that void today by talking about what a lot of people are buzzing about in the football world this week, the snub of Bill Belichick, 6-time world champion, NFL coach, Super Bowl winner, and Bill Belichick in his first opportunity to be named to the Pro Football Hall of Fame this week, not named, snubbed, not getting the votes from the committee. It's not just a committee, it's kind of a giant conglomerate of former players, of writers, of broadcasters, of executives, other people involved with the sport, and people are outraged. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, a lot of different voices coming out and going, this is an absolute travesty. How can you have the all-time winningest Super Bowl coach not named? Well, I'm going to tell you why, and the reason is this little clique called the football community, the NFL, is very, very tight-knit on certain things. And right now, this is remember the old adage in Catholic school where you're sitting there and if you're talking out or saying something improper, the sister comes with the ruler and whacks you right on the knuckles? This is what the NFL and the football community has done to Bill Belichick by snubbing him in his first chance to get in the Hall of Fame, despite the fact that he's an absolute slam dunk lock. It's going to happen, but this was a little admonition. Look that word up if you don't know what it means. But it was just a little message to Belichick that, hey, Bill, you've embarrassed yourself and you've embarrassed a lot of us in the last couple of years. And when I talk about embarrassment, Belichick, of course, finishing up his stint with the Patriots, not very well, with a .500 record his last 3 years, very unspectacular, left that job, and basically the next year went to every team that had an opening and begged to get back in because he started hearing the whispers. Well, maybe it was Brady, not Belichick, that won all those Super Bowls because he failed miserably in his last 3 seasons. He was begging teams, the Atlanta Falcons. He went there 2 or 3 times, but the same thing kept getting in the way of him getting another job in the NFL. He wanted total control of roster and personnel decisions. That wasn't going to happen, not this time, no way. They're not going to give him that opportunity. So what did he do? He went to North Carolina with his 24-year-old girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. Belichick, by the way, is almost 74, 49 years her senior. And this woman, Jordan Hudson, has parlayed her association with Bill Belichick into career opportunities for herself and involved herself in a lot of issues that Bill Belichick would never have been involved in. Like when she came out last year and said he has been barred from the New England Patriots complex. They don't allow him to even come in anymore. That turned out to be fake news. She was doing that to kind of spark things up or whatever, stir things up, getting attention for them. The Patriots totally denied that. Said Bill Belichick, it's got the gold path if he wants to come here any day of the week. So there's been a lot of that kind of thing going on, controversies and things that she stirred up. And basically, he took the North Carolina job to give his sons coaching opportunities, a couple of his close friends, executive opportunities, and North Carolina fell flat on their face last year. It was embarrassing. It was a humiliation. That opening game against the TCU Horned Frogs, national television, North Carolina, big favorite, huge enthusiasm in the crowd in Chapel Hill. It was a big bust. They didn't get it done. So Bill Belichick, it's all about numbers for Belichick. 6 Super Bowls, but he had to wait 49 years for his girlfriend to be born, and now he's going to have to wait 1 more year to get into the Hall of Fame.
Hey, welcome to the Legend Cave, where the great men of all time have been here. I'm talking Paul Fine, Bob Taylor Hicks. Also talking about the great Keefer and the magnificent Tony Curry. And hey, we're going to talk a little Alabama basketball. You know the big controversy about Charles Bediako. The NCAA gave him a few more days. We'll get to see him today in action. I personally don't have nothing against it, because it's the wild, wild west, and how people are playing 25, 26, 27-year-old guys. One guy's 30 years old, and did you know there's a 30-year-old player playing, Tony?
I did.
I mean, so do you have a problem with Bediako? Let's hear your view on it.
And doggone Nate Oates is going to be behind every one of his players now. They should be playing. Doggone, he supports his basketball players, because if they're playing right, they're doing things right. Doggone, you're 37 years old, you should be able to play for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Maybe bring you a little 10 and 10 as well. Let's see what happens.
So are you with it or are you against it?
No, I'm totally against it. If you go play and you get paid, it's time to call it a night and be done with it. The only reason they're coming back is because the same thing you keep talking about, destroying everything, moolah.
Well, that's except for Alabama. I make exceptions when it comes to us. Kip, how about it? What about you with Bediako? You down with the Bediako?
Well, you know, he's been a productive force in those first couple of games. He's scored 27 points in 2 games. I still think not being able to see and waddling around, I think I could put up 8 or 10. So I'm not too impressed with the scoring punch. He got a few more rebounds in this last game. They played a better game against Missouri. I thought he was kind of a non-factor against Tennessee. Only 3 rebounds. The guy's 7'1". What's he doing? Of course, basketball is different now. If you go out to an NBA game, all the 7-foot guys are outside the 3-point line. Yep. It's a very very different game. I've got problems with it, not for Bediako and not for just this particular case. I just worry about the implications moving forward, that all of a sudden this is going to open Pandora's box to a lot of people coming back. Big joke in Athens, Jake Fromm, the former Georgia quarterback, just retired from the NFL last year. He's in Athens on business. Somebody said, "Will you come back and you got a year left at Georgia?" And he said, "Well, if somebody pays my legal costs, I'm in." So he's just being funny, but it could get as absurd as that.
You know, Tony, it is the wild, wild west. Do you see NBA players coming back? Do you see this thing getting out of hand?
LeBron's got 5 years
do you
eligibility.
think somebody's going to step in. Some judge in Alabama somewhere is going to step in and say, no. Is that going to happen, or is it going to get crazier? Crazier?
No, I don't think it's going to be crazy. The NBA, the money in the NBA, we talk about Major League Baseball, like utility guys who don't even play every single night are making $14, $15 million a year for the Cincinnati Reds. For the Cincinnati Reds, for God's sakes, the Supermax now is like $60 million. These guys don't want to go back to college, man. Have you not seen like Beverly Hills Wives? Have you not seen Atlanta Hawks Wives? I mean, these ladies, they need some cash
But what
up
about
front.
the G League? Because this G League, this is almost like a throwaway league. Because if you go to the G League, chances are there's a very little slim chance you're going to make the NBA. Are you all right with some of these G League players kind of recycling back through college, Kip?
I know some of these G League guys are getting like $25 a game and a snack afterwards. So yeah, I think the G League is another story. And the problem is, if you sign a professional contract and you're employed by the San Antonio Spurs like Bediako was, and the Motor City Greyhounds are your team, you're a professional player. So there's got to be a distinction there. I don't know. Tony is right on target on this. The money in the NBA is so much more significant that, certainly that's a whole different animal. But I can see a lot of guys from the G League getting disgruntled. They're paying better in college than the G League.
They're paying better. Hey, it's a big question, ladies and gentlemen, my friends. I admire these guys. I respect their opinion. But hey, Bediako, get 10 rebounds and 30 points a day. Whatever you do, when you play Auburn, I don't care if you came on the NBA. Just beat them. I don't care. I remember it's just a game. Don't be like the starting lineup. Sports insane.
Hey, it's Case Keefer back for another edition of the Vegas Heaters. I am a longtime sports bettor and sports betting writer for Greenspun Media Group, which includes Las Vegas Sun and Las Vegas Weekly. A special edition this week, a Super Bowl edition. That's right, I know we're still technically a week away, but this is such a gigantic betting event, of course. The biggest one in our country all year that I thought we needed 2 weeks into it. Already the props are populating everywhere in Las Vegas. Almost all the sports books have most of their menus up, and it's pretty crazy. I've lived since I've been covering this, since I've been betting. I've gotten to the point where props are a bigger portion of the betting handle than the spread and the total. Now, we'll see if that's necessarily the case this year. I still think it will be, but we have taken some big bets already in Las Vegas, seen multiple reports of seven-figure plus bets on the game. Two of the biggest ones I've seen on the Patriots, interestingly, as the underdog on the money line. We'll probably get to all that next week, but I thought to give you a head start on props, or at least how I'm looking at the game, I would give you some buy and sell players today. I haven't fired a whole lot. I've started looking at the index props, which is kind of my specialty. If you remember last year, best Super Bowl I ever had, a lot what we talked about on the show. Almost all of it came true. We hit the MVP, Jalen Hurts, and if you don't remember, he was not the favorite. That was Saquon Barkley and Patrick Mahomes listed ahead of him, so that was a nice hit. We hit the first touchdown with Jalen Hurts, hit a bunch of other things. Greatest Super Bowl, so we set the bar high, but trying to get just a little bit higher this week. So again, buy and sell players. Let's start positive with the buy players. One from the Patriots, one from the Seahawks. A guy I will be targeting in the prop market. We'll start with Patriots tight end Hunter Henry. Now the Seahawks have been amazing on defense against just about everything. There's only one position where they are below average going into the Super Bowl, and that is tight end. They're only slightly below average, but they have struggled a little bit to match up with tight ends. And I look at this as kind of a perfect storm because Hunter Henry has not really had a great playoffs. I know he scored one touchdown, had a decent game against the Chargers, but other than that, he's been a little bit down from where he is in the regular season. Because of that, I think you're seeing his props a little bit lower. I think there is value on betting him in a multitude of ways. I haven't done a lot of the over-unders yet, but how I've already backed him, I took him to score the first touchdown at 15-1. I also took him to score an anytime touchdown at plus 225. I like this route even more because Hunter Henry all year, he's kind of in the vocal point of the Patriots' red zone attack, at least in the passing game. I don't want to throw a whole lot of anytime touchdown scorers in the mix here because I do think this is going to be a lower scoring game. A lot of times in Super Bowls, I'm looking for more no's or unders. That hasn't maybe worked in totality the last 3 years. We've had 3 kind of shootouts, but I think this year it's going to kind of regress back to that, where I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of players doing much. But with the Patriots, there's just 3 players or maybe even 2.5 that have so much of the touchdown equity. To me, Henry is the biggest one in the passing game. That's who they throw to in the red zone. I also think Ramondre Stevenson, local Las Vegas kid, former Sun Standout Player of the Year, to give him a shout out, rooting for him certainly, but he is a big red zone threat too with his running style. So I feel like Stevenson and Henry are by far the most likely scorers on this team. Drake May too, with his scrambling ability and things to make things happen. He gets in the mix there, but I like Henry to score a touchdown, hopefully to score the first touchdown to get us off to a big start. Now, I'm not really stepping very bold with this one, but the player I want to buy on the Seahawks, if you've watched the Seahawks all year, just barely paid attention, you can probably guess who I'm going to. That is Jackson Smith-Njigba. The guy has been arguably, I would probably have him second, but probably the best receiver in the NFL this year in most people's minds. Won the receiving title. I just feel like when they want to throw to him, he cannot be stopped, and I feel like they're going to want to throw to him in the Super Bowl. And it's not like his asking prices are completely insane. I think his over-under catch is either 6.5 or 7.5. Receiving yards kind of in the low 90.5. However, if I'm going to back him, I want to shoot for the high upside. He reminds me a lot, 3 years ago when the Rams took on the Bengals, Cooper Kupp won Offensive Player of the Year that year. Unfortunately, I'm on Puka Nacua, but I think Smith-Njigba is going to win Offensive Player of the Year this year. And the Rams and all the big moments went to him, and he was rewarded with the MVP. I think the same thing could happen for Smith-Njigba if he hits the overs on both those totals, maybe if he scores a touchdown. So I took Smith-Njigba to win the MVP at 6-1 is how I bet on him. Now a little bit shorter for the sells because I don't like to be negative, but the players I'm selling kind of correlate. Let's go first to the Seahawks. I love this guy. I think he's a great running back, but if you've watched any Mike Vrabel defenses over the years, he always runs a pass funnel. I don't necessarily agree with it, but hey, it's gotten him to where he's gone to, but he always focuses on stopping the run. I really think that the Patriots are going to be set up to make sure Kenneth Walker doesn't beat them. He's had a big game in the NFC Championship game. He's getting more of the usage now with Zach Charbonnet out, so I think his numbers are boosted, and I will not mind jumping in on some unders on Kenneth Walker just because of the matchup, just because the Patriots place so much emphasis on stopping the run game, arguably more than any other team in the NFL at this point. So Kenneth Walker is a sell to me. And going to a running back on the other side, that was the first one was the bold one, the second one the not so bold one for the second thing in a row, buy and sell. I'm going to sell Travion Henderson, who has all the talent in the world. I know Patriots fans wish this guy was used more, and I think there's going to be some rumblings to the surface now going into the game. They have this explosive running back. Why are they not going to use him in the Super Bowl? I just don't think they trust him as much as Stevenson. We've seen time and time again Vrabel praise Stevenson, give him the ball in big situations. So I think Travion Henderson's role is going to be limited to non-existent in the Super Bowl. There's 2 players I'm buying and selling. Stick around to see what the other guys think, share some Super Bowl memories. We'll be back next week to talk more about the big game.
Starting lineup gets after it every Tuesday and Friday at 10 o'clock on K4 Wins. You can do that on Tony Curry Radio and also the Digital Sports Network. We're going to be on VSiN soon, where you get all your picks and plays. K4 Wins, K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. We're going to have March Madness. We got, of course, the Super Bowl big plays. We'll have prop bets. Case is going to be on talk about prop bets and everything else. We'll have that going on. Also, the Woodhouse Day Spot, our good friend Stuart Rooms, will be back in here in the next few days. Valentine's Day is right around the corner, gentlemen. You want to get your lady something nice. You don't want the chocolates because it puts the weight on. She don't want the flowers because they die within 3 days. Get herself a massage. The Woodhouse Day Spa, Birmingham.woodhousespas.com, Birmingham.woodhousespas.com, and also Sasquatch Toys and Comics, over 300,000 comics. They've actually asked to buy some of Tony Curry's memorabilia. Got me a Sting guitar hanging down there on the walls. Perhaps you can go down there and knock it out. So check out Sasquatch Toys and Comics right there in beautiful Homewood. It should be a large time.
It's going to be great. I hope you caught the Game Time show this morning on Jocks 94.5. Kip and the legend, the First Lady Terry Quillian. We have a great time every Saturday morning, 8 to 10. What a doubleheader. You got Game Time and then the starting lineup. If you start your Saturday any other way, what's wrong with you? Get on board. We've got the great doubleheader every week.
Super Bowl 60. I always like, I was born in 66. So I know it's always Super Bowl. That means my ass is 60 this year. That's not good. We were talking about some of our favorite Super Bowl moments. And Kip, you brought this up, so I'm going to let you go first.
Well, my favorite Super Bowl of all time, easy for me, January 1983, Super Bowl 17. I was a very young man, but I was a very young man who was long suffering because my father brought me up as a Washington Redskins fan. And you talk about some lean years in my childhood, and even in the 70s, they had the one run with George Allen with the Over the Hill Gang. But in 83, they finally broke through against the Miami Dolphins. 4th and 1 on their 43-yard line in the fourth quarter in a 3-point game. John Riggins, and he's going to go all the way. Touchdown, Redskins. It was just ecstasy for me. The Redskins were the world champions. Never thought I'd live to see it.
Well, it's something that the Cincinnati Bengals have never done before. We've been to 3 Super Bowls, 2 against San Francisco, and, of course, the Rams. And Stanford got us 4 years ago against Joe Burrow, but I'll remember Super Bowl back in 1989. It was Super Bowl 23. Sam Weiss was the head coach. They had this kid named Stanley Wilson, who was the second best running back on that team, and he was a mudder. You into horses. He was a mudder. He loved running in the mud.
His mudder
was a
was a mudder.
torrential downpour at Joe Robbie Stadium about an hour before Super Bowl 23 coming up, so everyone thinking Stanley's going to be getting the ball. Well, guess what? Stanley didn't make it, because Stanley got coked up and passed out on his bathroom floor 3 hours before the biggest game of his life, and that was strike 3. Sam Weiss still says to this day that if Stanley Wilson was running the football for the Cincinnati Bengals, he had 3 touchdowns in the previous games. We win that Super Bowl maybe another time. What's your favorite Super Bowl memory?
You know, my favorite Super Bowl memory is the Cowboys and Steelers and some of them great Super Bowls when Lynn Swann made the magnificent catch going over the top of Charlie Waters. You know, as a Colt fan, I would say what Peyton Manning did against the Bears, but that Super Bowl was horrible. And then when Jim O'Brien kicked the winning field goal against the Cowboys, they called that the turnover bowl. There was like 12 turnovers
Yeah, there were.
in that game. The Colts, the 2 Super Bowl the Colts won, probably the 2 worst Super Bowls in Super Bowl history.
Yep.
You know, so I like Dallas and the Steelers. Those memories, that's what the Super Bowl is all about, great rivalry.
Santa Clara, February 8th. We cannot wait. And, of course, we've all kind of take our picks. You taking the Seahawks. You give me
like
some
Seattle.
points. We're taking the Pats. And I just want to see a good game for, you remember, years. It seemed like the Super Bowl always was one of the biggest duds. Something to keep in mind, though, Kip. The last 5 Super Bowls, the underdog is
That's
5-0 against the spread and 4-1 straight up.
Look at the Eagles
Just letting
last
you know.
year. They were a
Yeah.
3.5-point underdog.
So
that didn't turn
And
out to
Green Day, how can you beat Green Day?
I know, right?
Now,
Green Bay
finally
don't have
got
time.
somebody worth watching. Now.
Finally, somebody I've heard of.
Somebody.
Somebody get some AC/DC at
Oh, my
halftime
goodness.
during the Super Bowl. Let's get it all, man. I'm not saying the Who was very good. I'm not saying some of the other classes.
Oh, wow.
Bruce Springsteen, he was really, really good. But yeah, I'm getting the point. We got a weekend.
Well, if they had the Who on in 1983, that Super Bowl I really liked, they would have been a lot better. But when you're 90, you can't rock very well.
Yeah, it was only 2 of them, but they had a hell of a light show. It was so great. I remember my TV was so bright, I got a migraine headache from it. The music wasn't any good, but man, the screen was really, really bright. All right, we're going to get after it. We do it every Saturday morning, 10:30, 11 o'clock, right here in the starting lineup. Case Keefer, of course, he's the man, the myth, the legend. You want to talk about, he's another legend, along with this one right here. Gets it after. We're going to do it back to Cave. Miss Terry, going to be back next week?
She's week to week, you know. She's got a busy schedule.
And I'm looking forward to this fantastic Kip perspective to do another one of those next week right here on the starting lineup at ABC 3340. Have yourself a blessed and wonderful weekend. Thanks for watching.